one of many that became myth over the millennia in the time when the world was governed by beings from other dimensions, the so-called ancient gods. The earth had a dark rule in the palace on the island of Minos. Everyone in the kingdom worshipped the bull, which they considered to be a very powerful being. The story goes that as the Dark Empire grew, its hedonism and greed knew no bounds, and human irrationality and evil also grew equally, longing for more power. Men had a dreadful idea and offered a queen to the bull god. She had relations with the being, and from this union a terrible abomination was born. The creature was suckled on the blood of its own mother, who died when the being was torn from her womb. With this, the Dark Empire was strengthened, but as the creature grew, its hunger grew equally. The beast was then placed in a labyrinth to be controlled. At a certain time, a law was created in the Dark Empire of Minos due to the murder of a prince of that kingdom. The law stated that every 3 years 8 young people were taken from their homes and brought to the beast's labyrinth to be sacrificed to it. Near the 50th sacrifice to the creature on a chilly hillside, guiding a flock of sheep, we see Theo with his friend Danu. Suddenly they see a shadowy figure in the distance. Danu says that his father had told him that this man a bad omen, and asserts that something must be coming back in his tent. Theo tells his father what he saw in the forest earlier with Danu. Theo speaks of how much he misses a young woman who was taken as a sacrifice for the beast, and asks how many more must die because of a revenge law for that prince of the past. His father tries to comfort him, but Theo is discontented with it. Meanwhile, Danu goes to talk to his girlfriend Morna, confessing his fear of losing her when the soldiers come. At this moment, some men from the village, along with Theo's father, who was the leader of the place, discuss the possibility of fighting to prevent their children from being taken, but all fear being destroyed at once if they do so. One of the men questions why they haven't also handed over Theo as part of the 8 young people to be sacrificed. But the leader says he can't do that because Theo is his son and successor as the village leader. One morning, Theo sees some wolves approaching his sheep from afar and runs to save them. He doesn't arrive in time, and one sheep is killed. Theo sees a wolf still nearby but quickly fleeing, so he chases the animal. However, at a certain point he sees a tree with a strange mark carved into its bark. While looking at it, his attention is drawn to the entrance of a cave where the mysterious figure he saw before is there and beckons him with a hand. He goes to her, and inside the cave finds the figure, an old woman with the wolf by her side. Theo speaks about the mark on the tree, saying he recognizes it because the other half that completes it is with him, showing a broken medallion. He says that the other part of that medallion belonged to the person he loves, who was taken for sacrifice to the beast. The old woman says the young woman was taken but not sacrificed, asserting that she is in the labyrinth beneath the palace. Theo doesn't believe the old woman's words, but she continues and says that to save the young woman, Theo must kill the creature known as the Menor. Theo spends the night dreaming of his beloved who was taken from him, and in the morning he is awakened by his father, who tells him to take the flock away because the soldiers will soon arrive. Theo reveals that he spoke with the old witch in the cave, and that she told him that the young woman he loved is still alive, and if he wants to see her again he must kill the Minotaur. His father tells him that it's all lies from the old woman, and that he cannot do such madness because the Minotaur is a god that no human can kill. In the late afternoon of that same day, the Empire ships are seen approaching from afar. At night they arrive at the village and invade. Theo is in the mountains as his father ordered, but cannot stop thinking about what the old witch told him. Meanwhile, the soldiers go into the tents and take the young people they see. Theo, still thinking, remembers the woman he loves and who was taken from him with determination. He gets up and runs to his village when the soldiers are already leaving, taking the 8 young people. Theo arrives and, distracting one of them, manages to take the place of a young woman being taken without anyone noticing. Seeing all this, sadly, Theo's father only laments and bids farewell to the taken youths, having no idea that his son is among them already on the high seas. The 8 youths are inside a large iron cage. Danu sees one of them still lying wrapped in blankets, and when he goes to check who it is, he sees that it is his friend Theo. Moments later, Theo talks to one of the youths named Tyro, who did not like him much and states that he will kill the beast. Tyro does not believe that a man can kill the monster, even though he shares the same desire as each of the youths has their own thoughts regarding the bull beast, with one even believing that what they are doing there is something to be proud of. Upon arriving at the Dark Empire, they are immediately taken to the presence of Emperor Dualan, who promptly orders the sacrifice to begin, initially taking only to young women in front of Duan's throne. There is a hole covered by large thick iron bars through which the youths will be thrown. However, before Duan throws the girls in, Theo says that the girls will not love the beast, but Dualan orders him to be silent and calls the princess of the kingdom with an animal skull in hand. He makes her inhale the vapor coming from it. The princess then approaches the two girls, and after kissing them puts them into a sort of trance, making them eager to be thrown to the beast. The iron bars are opened and Walon invokes the monster, which initially does not appear, but it does not take long for the shadow of its horns to be seen. Then a monstrous roar shakes the whole place, and seeing the opportunity, Theo and Tyro try to attack, but without success, and are easily subdued. The princess then orders the two girls to be taken from the mouth of the hole, and Dwalin orders the pit to be prepared as the 8 youths will now be sacrificed. Together, reprimands the princess for speaking in that place. The 8 are thrown into a place to await their sacrifice. Later we see the princess speaking in a very low voice with one of her maids, ordering her to bring Theo to her as she had been warned by the old witch that he would come. Theo is then sedated and taken to the princess's room, whose name is Raphaela, where she tries to seduce Theo. However, Theo does not fall for her seduction, and even threatens her, demanding to know what she wants from him. Raphaela then reveals that she wants Theo to help her free herself from the beast, but all this is heard and seen by Dwalin, who was spying from the beginning. Raphaela also mentions a girl from the last sacrifice, who turns out to be Fen, the woman taken from Theo. Raphaela asks him to save her, and in return she will help him. Dwalin arrives with his men and orders Theo to be imprisoned, who tries to fight back, but is quickly sedated again. Dwalin threatens Raphaela, and orders Theo to be taken to the hole where the beast is. The other youths are also soon taken, and after Theo is placed in the labyrinth, all are thrown in one by one through different entrances, scattered around the palace into the location. Theo can hear his friend's screams echoing throughout the place, and does not know what to do. A heavy breathing sound is heard, followed by a terrifying roar. The beast rushes out to devour its first sacrifice. The devoted young girl is the monster's first victim, and her agonizing screams echo through the labyrinth before her death. After this, Theo cautiously walks when he smells a strange odor coming from a fissure in the rock. He realizes it is a type of gas, the same that Dwalin uses today, whomever he wants, inhaling a larger amount of this gas. Theo briefly hallucinates about his beloved death, but it soon passes at the sound of something like stones clashing coming from further back in the tunnels. Theo goes there and realizes it is Morna, who, unable to speak, used that noise to guide one of her friends to her, which worked. Theo cannot understand what she wants to say when suddenly a distant scream is heard by them, and they rush to get there. In another part, we see Vi, who is desperate and very frightened, asking for someone to help her. Vina moves some loose rocks and discovers a dried up body, which makes her scream in horror. Suddenly, Danu arrives near her, causing her to scream even louder, now frightened by Danu. However, this allows Theo and Mora to quickly find them. The four now together discuss what they should do. Vina wants to try to get out of the place as soon as possible, but Theo and the others want to find the others even without knowing if they are still alive. Meanwhile, Raphaela is being taken to Dwan's room to be possessed as his woman and bear his child, but suddenly seeing one of the nearby holes, she runs and stands on the edge, saying she prefers to surrender to the beast, and then jumps. Theo and the others arrive at the place where the devoted girl was killed and see only blood everywhere and what remains of her clothes. They also see the enormous footprint of the creature, and while they are looking at it, Tyro appears covering Danu's mouth and tells the others to stay silent, asserting that the creature is just ahead, very close by. Tyro says that he will kill the beast himself, but needs someone to act as bait. Theo volunteers as the bait, while the others hide nearby armed with whatever they have, waiting for the beast to approach so they can attack. Something is approaching, and when everyone jumps to attack, they realize it is just Raphaela. She says she is there to help them, claiming to know a way out, and that her servant is already waiting for them. Vina does not want to trust her and starts to leave, but Theo asks her not to go. However, she begins to say unpleasant things to everyone, stating that she does not care about anyone there and is ashamed to have been born in Theo's village. While she is still talking, she is suddenly killed by the horn of the beast that appears behind her, causing everyone else to run for their lives. After distancing themselves from the creature, they find their other friend Day, who soon regains consciousness with Raphaela's help. They continue and approach the exit that Raphaela assured would lead them out. However, before the servant can open the door, Blen arrives with his men and prevents her, then kills her when they reach the exit door. Raphaela calls for her servant to open the door, but only silence responds. They begin to panic, trying to break down the door as they can hear the beast's breathing getting closer. Time runs out, and the giant creature comes running, knocking down one of the youths and roaring furiously at everyone. The beast quickly claims its new victim, impaling another youth with its horn while letting out deafening roars. Theo, Danu, and Na run in one direction while Raphaela is cornered by the beast. Dee and Tyro manage to reach another part of the labyrinth and finding water drink some to quench their great thirst. Theo and the others continue walking aimlessly when they suddenly see a strange man who says he has been there for a long time, surviving by eating rats and insects. The man then asks them to follow him to another place. The stranger named Turg leads the group to a small opening between the rocks and shows them a mini-map he has made of the place, as he has been there for a long time. The man shows signs of having a troubled mind, saying some nonsensical things, but some useful information such as the creature sleeping seems valuable to Theo. Meanwhile, Princess Rafaela shows that she escaped the beast and is walking through the labyrinth simultaneously. Dualin is shouting to the creature at the edge of the pit, saying he will get Rafaela back. Next, we see the madman approaching the door that also leads to the labyrinth and opening it. Theo still firmly believes that Fan is alive, so he threatens Tag to tell him where she is, thinking that since he has lived there for so long he might know. However, the shouts from this confrontation attract the attention of the terrible creature, which approaches where they are. The monster begins trying to knock down the stone walls, causing some rock slides. However, the beast stops upon hearing Duke Kalen's voice calling for Rafaela and heads toward him. The beast snorts as it moves toward him, but the coward, upon hearing it, quickly exits through the door, leaving his soldier inside, who is quickly and brutally killed. Theo continues to force Tarab to say where Fen is, and finding the half of the medallion that belonged to her, believes even more that she is alive. He takes the map made by Tag and forces him to say where she is, and pointing to the supposed location. Theo decides to go there. Day and Tyro are still walking aimlessly and begin to develop feelings for each other, with Tyro promising to get her out of there. They reach one of the entrances to the palace, so they decide to climb up there. Tyro goes first in reaching the iron bars, urgently calls Day to climb up and grab his hand as she is still climbing. The creature arrives below despite Tyro pleas for Day not to look down. She does so, and seeing the monster starts screaming, attracting its attention. Unfortunately, as expected, the young girl cannot hold on due to her panic and falls directly onto the beast's horn. Theo continues walking and at a certain point starts hearing Fan's voice. Suddenly she appears behind him, making him very happy, and he runs to embrace her. However, this joy quickly turns into deep sorrow when he awakens from the trance and sees that he was actually embracing Fan's long dead body. He realizes that he must now only help his friends who are still alive, so he leaves the place of death to find Danu and the others again at that same moment, after asking Morna to return to Tag's hideout. Danu continues searching for Theo, and seeing what appears to be him up ahead, calls out his name, but realizing something is wrong, he stops and looks more closely. He then notices it is actually the beast advancing to attack him, and with no chance of escape. He yells for Theo to take care of Morna for him. Theo, hearing his friend's voice echoing from all sides and not knowing which way to go to help him, can only listen as Danu was killed by the monster. This makes him furious, and throwing the half of the iron medallion against the labyrinth walls, a spark is generated, igniting a small flame and also sparking a light of hope in Theo's heart that they might get out of that place alive. Rafaela arrives near him and reveals the truth about the minor story and the reason for the sacrifices made to him. She says that it was actually the Minotaur who killed the prince in the past, and to hide such shame, they invented that it was a man from Theo's village. The Th condemning the villagers to always offer young people as sacrifices to pay for the false debt. Rafaela then encourages Theo even more to fight and defeat the beast. She leads into the source of gas, escaping from that place where the smell is very strong, while they are still looking at the fissure through which the gas escapes. The miner appears behind them, roaring furiously at that moment. Tyro also arrives, furious over losing Day, and tells Theo to run while he charges at the beast, but he is quickly impaled by its horns, though he continues to fight. Meanwhile, Theo leaves Rafaela in a safe place and tells her to hide in the water. When the Minotaur comes, then heads back to where the monster is. Theo arrives but is too late to save Tyro, who dies a pointless death. Theo shouts, calling the monster to attack him, and it charges at Theo furiously. However, at the last second, Theo dodges, causing the beast to crash into the labyrinth wall, further opening the gas escape area. The creature gets up dazed among the fallen stones with a pie of one of its horns broken off. Theo looks for the piece of the iron medallion to generate another spark, but realizes the piece is stuck in the monster's horn. The creature, still dazed from the impact, runs in another direction, and Theo jumps on it to retrieve his object as soon as he gets it. The monster sees Theo running back to the gas escape source and chases after him. Theo changes course and heads towards Rafaela. As only there can he escape the flames. He He tries to generate sparks with the medallion on the walls and finally succeeds. The flames quickly consume the labyrinth, and Theo barely makes it to where Rafaela is. The creature is not so lucky and is engulfed by the intense flames. The explosion is so powerful that it erupts from below into the palace, hitting Dualan and causing great destruction. Theo and Rafaela escape underwater while Duken and many of his servants die with the falling debris. Theo and Rafaela emerge from the water still fearful of the creature. They then hear footsteps approaching from behind and discover it is the Minotaur who survived the explosion but is severely damaged. The beast charges at Theo once again. However, Theo sees the piece of the horn that the creature had lost earlier and quickly grabs it, waiting for the monster. Theo manages to stab the horn into the creature's mouth, and with the force of its own weight seals its death as it pins Theo against the wall, impaling its monstrous head. Theo and Rafaela hurry to find the way out of that place, and on the way Theo finds Morna still hiding with Tag. He then calls them to escape together. Everything is collapsing, and they continue forward, soon finding an exit that reveals the sunlight when they emerge. They see they are in the main part of the palace, and everything is destroyed. Dualan is still alive among the debris, but barely alive. Rafaela approaches him and suffocates him, ensuring a different and better future for all the people. Music.